I just like to begin with you. What is your own, performance evaluation in the security area so far?
All right. Good morning. It is still little early to examine the MDAs, the performance of the MDAs so far. But one thing we can, pick from the action and body language of Mr. President is it shows that the current administration is aware of the economic challenges, the current realities, and the need for urgent measures and change in the way we've always approached things as a government or as a people, as a nation. And President is taking the lead role in that. If we remember clearly, unusually, he came in on the president came in on the 1st of January to sign the budget into law, which is a sign that he knows the very essence of being timely and sticking to time and ensuring that he demonstrate to his cabinet and every other person in the government and the public that the year 2024 should be an opportunity for every one of us to give ourselves, as a nation, a chance at succeeding and being the prosperous, peaceful and united nation that we know we can be. And he swiftly followed up with reduction in cost of travel for local and international trips for himself, vice president, and the wives of the president and the vice president. Then instructed the ministers to reduce their entourage too for local and international trips. Of course, this is in reaction to the comment from the public over the size of government. In the face of economic realities which Nigerians have had to embrace or brace themselves up to, it is very encouraging to know that the president is leading by example. And he stand on the suspension of Minister for Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation. It's another indication that it is not business as usual, and that there are no sacred cows in his government, and the right thing will be done. And the invitation of one of the indicted 7 ministers, and the clear directives to the agencies that are in charge of investigation, whom he has given his full authority to ensure thorough investigation and let the law take its course. He equally looked in some other area of the deployment of our troops, our security agency during his local trips. Usually you have hundreds of policemen, officers being moved from Abuja to other states that are, when the president visits, you find out that the president has instructed that the resources, security resources in each of these states should be put to use instead of having to move personnel from Abuja. For many ways that this benefits the country. One of them is that of course there's definitely a reduction in cost of doing that. Then it now means that police security agencies in each of these states are now performing at a level that they are able to be trusted to protect the president. By extension, when the president isn't longer there, we still expect them to perform at that optimal level for the good of the community, which they were designed to do. It isn't always about having special protection for people in government when people in different cities do not enjoy similar protection. You find out that we have like a special unit that are always moved around to provide intels and provide cover for whenever. But when we have the entire system being put on their toes, being equipped, being supported to be able to provide such security services at the highest level considered good enough for president, then it is the implication, the good side of that is, even when the president isn't in these states, these guys are able to perform at the level, at that same level that every citizen expect and provide the same protection and cover for every single citizen of the country, which, you know, in the long run will increase the readiness, you know, and of the personnel, increase information sharing between the central, you know, security unit and all of the other units across the country, and, you know, it can only mean well for the entire nation.
I'll do for your opening comments there. Of course, it's quite impressive, and some Nigerians, you know, happy about the fact that the president is, you know, leading by example, like he said, you know, cutting down, you know, and all of that. But, you know, one of the main issues with development in this country is actually corruption, really, and it's a systemic issue. Dr. Uche Diala, I'm talking to you now because you're the president Foundation Against Fraud, Indiscipline and Corruption. We know that's like the main problem. That's why MGAs do not perform. It goes beyond trying to cut down on all of that. But we know that, you know, these ministries, departments, agencies, and, you know, different you know, sectors find a way to, you know, just cheat the country and its populace. We've seen what has happened with the humanitarian ministry, and of course there'll be many more revelations. But do you think that that issue of corruption, you know, can be really handled by this administration, considering how deep it has eaten into the fabric of our nation?
Okay, thank you. First of all, you are spot on. You know, corruption is a major issue in Nigeria, and it transcends this administration.
And just to quickly add, this morning the chairman of the EFCC is even lamenting himself, and saying that even the investigators in the EFCC are now a part of the corruption process. Absolutely,
and it's such a big problem that, well, first of all, I commend the president. Look, it's important that you show good example, that you lead by example, that you signpost that you are not ready to accept certain things. You know, one of the things that bothered me when the issue of the suspended minister came up was the fact that there was an existing guideline, and even when the memo was written to the accountant general, she actually said, no, you can't do that. I reminded them of what the guideline said, and they still went on. So you see, in the work we do, even in our conversations in the progressive think tank, we've looked at all this. The approach to corruption, beyond what the president is doing now, has to be holistic. Essentially, two broad things that we need to do. The two broad things is, one, prevention, and then punishment. And in prevention, we have more work to do in prevention than in punishment. In prevention, look, corruption is an entire industry in Nigeria. Look, it's not just in government, it's also in the private sector, right? Now, the mindset of the average Nigerian is corrupt. I said once that the average Nigerian is inherently corrupt. A former Senator Atan Achono from Imo State once said that he's not afraid about the corruption happening by people in position of authority. He's afraid of the multitude waiting outside for their own opportunity to
milk the nation.
Yes. So now, what the president and all of us indeed need to do, first of all, we need to begin to change the mindset of Nigerians, and that's why for a long time I've been calling on the National Electoral Agency to sit up. If you look at the social media, if you look at the communities, you find out that the average Nigerian, 15, 16, younger than that. There was a young boy, 7 years in Kaduna, somewhere in the north, that was arrested for fraud, right? So first of all, because when you talk about prevention, there are people already in the system, but there are many who are outside the system, who are looking at what is going on. So we need to find a way, some kind of multi-sectoral approach to change the mindset of Nigerians towards corruption, towards living right, towards contentment, right? Now, that is based, and then in doing that, you want all these agencies to be involved, the media, you want the CSOs, you want the community leaders to be involved. That's one. We need to change the mindset. And secondly, punishment. For crying out loud, there needs to be real judicial service. I'm happy that Fobla is here. Real judicial service reform. See, people actually go into government or public office with the mindset that, okay, so there will still and still enough to prepare for the trouble that will come. Okay, so I don't want to go too far. These two things, because what you mentioned about what the EFCC chair, I'm glad he said that, because we need to also begin to speak the truth. The truth is that there's corruption in the government, there's corruption in the civil service,
and there's corruption in the EFCC.
He said so. We didn't say that.
Diala, thank
Yes.
you. Let's bring in Chief Obonobla, and I mean, we've heard this saying. We heard it, frequently during the middle past administration. When you fight corruption, corruption fights you. Back. And we did see that happening, and it will not stop, because those behind.
I was a victim.
See, so because those behind these fraudulent activities, we're not just talking about ordinary civil servants. We're talking about very powerful people and all that. Now we've seen President Tinibu take some actions, like the SA said, the constitution of an investigative committee to investigate particular ministry, and indeed the CBN. And I'm just wondering, might there be any other strategy that he could apply? And some people are even saying, look, a strategy that would really deal with corruption issues, even at a very critical NDAs. I don't want to mention those NDAs. Yes.
Yeah. I was telling you that I was a victim of corruption fighting back. I was the chairman of a presidential panel of investigation, to recover public property. And they told me, look, this is a large dish effort to address the issue of corruption. And I went all out, but the challenges I had, firstly for the National Assembly, because for the first time, senators were being investigated. I was investigating assets of senators, abroad. Well, some of them have been mentioned in the Panama Papers. You remember? Yes. And so they were not happy with me at all. For the first time, somebody was making members of the National Assembly to be accountable. And then also a former Senate president who was mentioned in the Panama Papers, a former military governor, and former military minister. He has so much abroad, offshore, islands. And since my panel didn't have the structure, I collaborated and partnered with National Intelligence Agency of Nigeria. And I said, look, I want to investigate. This man has been alleged to have so much, over 300 million pounds property in some offshore islands. What do we do? It's okay, well, let us partner. I don't have the structure. And then we did. And we came out with a report, and the man was indicted, and I sent the report to the former president, the Attorney General, but nothing happened. So the backlash.
Maintain this one. I'd like you to give us an insight into the kind of issues you had to contend with, investigating.
Yeah, the National Assembly
at the National Assembly
fought me. They said they were investigating me. At my academic qualifications. That's what they said. What has my job got to do with my academic qualifications? I'm a lawyer of almost 30-something years, and so they were investigating me, and they went ahead, came out a report, a jaundice report, indicting me and all that. So there was so much pressure on the president, and I was suspended innocently. Everything they alleged against me was proven, wrong, fabricated, spurious.
So this is will this then be a familiar terrain for President Tinibu?
Yeah, so I will urge the president to protect those who have been entrusted with the responsibility of fighting corruption. Nobody wants to be investigated. So as soon as you start investigating people, they begin to hate you. They begin to get back at you. Because if you do not protect those who have been given that very, very difficult work of fighting corruption, there shall come a time where nobody will be ready to step out. Look, I want to help government to address this issue, which is a major problem. Let me tell you. Let me give you an example.
You've talked about protection.
Yes. Yeah.
Now let us look at mechanism. Apart from constituting, panels, investigative panels, and all that, what other, strategy.
I like what Dr. Dara said. We have been collaborating a lot, and he said orientation, reorientation. A lot of Nigerians have this corrupt mindset. For instance, if you are given an appointment in government, all your villagers will celebrate you. People from your state will celebrate you. They are not celebrating you because they want you to go and serve this country or your state or local government. They are celebrating you because they are expecting that at the end of your office,
you make returns back
money. I had issues with my relatives. They told me, and some of them were not talking to me when I lost my job, that, oh, you were given a very powerful job, you were given the opportunity to enrich yourself, and you did not empower us. What do they mean by empowering us? Giving them money, doling out money, buying cars for them, buying vehicles for them. At end of the year, during Ramadan period, after the end of Ramadan, Christmas, periods, our senators, our public office holders, they distribute money, cars, and so forth and so on to members of their senatorial district, constituents, and then the people. And nobody bothers to ask, where is this money coming from? That is why they have this mindset that if you are in Abuja, you have hit the gold mine, because Abuja is flowing with milk and honey and money.
We pick it from the streets.
Yes. So that is the mindset of Nigerians, and that is what we have to, change. This attitude that government is all about making money to helping yourself and helping your people. To the extent that if you do not do that, you are ostracized at the end of your office. You are ostracized in your community.
But away from the people, actually, again, this, if you like, greed on the part of a lot of Nigerians, or maybe it's across the world, really. But a lot of Nigerians is shocking, or if you like, it's worrisome, because a situation where someone gets a lot of money, whether fraudulently or whichever ways, and just decides to keep it in a house or maybe somewhere and locks it up there, or digs the ground and buries it, or put it in a tank or something, and then you wonder, the money is for what? Because during during the Emefiele change of naira notes, changing of the color of the naira notes, we saw the kind of naira notes that were dug out from different places. It's quite shocking, and we really hope that we could change our mindset about not just enriching our people, but sometimes we want to save for our generations yet unborn, which is not a way to go. But let's look away from corruption now, because there are actually very many priorities, and because of time we need to touch on some of those priorities. And I would like to get to Aliyu Audu now in Lagos. Of course, corruption, we've talked about it, and we hope that the conversation continues, and then we can be able to hit the nail on the head as far as that is concerned. But let's talk about security, because at the moment it is front burner, and during the President's New Year message, he gave us renewed hope that security would be tightened. We're going to up our game in that wise, just so that we can be able to feel the impact of government. From what has been happening so far, and looking at the fact that in this budget for this year, security takes the largest chunk, 12%, about 3.25 trillion naira. Would you say that this government, this administration, will be able to do something different? I'm asking because, of course, security has always taken the largest chunk in our budgets, in recent past, but the impact hasn't been so much. So what do you think would be different this time around, considering the recent developments, of course, kidnappings here and there, although, like we did say this morning, we'll begin to see, some kind of show of force. Will it be sustained, and what should Nigerians expect?
Sustain, and the fact that we've come to not believe or trust that when presidents make declaration, when they give their words, 2, 3, 4, 5 years later, it never materialized, and it's quite disappointing. But the very reason many of us stuck our neck out for the current president is the fact that He's someone who is in touch with reality. He's someone who is very pragmatic, and he's someone who has an all-round grasp of governance. In the past, I would admit that previous governments have attempted to resolve security issue by using military approach only. We have seen that it hasn't worked, and there is need for change of tactics, and the president has looked at all the other issues, all the other angles. I mean, we have employment issues, we have wealth creation issue, we have my brother Dr. Uche Diala said, orientation issue. We all of this, comes to, I mean, there is no single unit of our national life that is working efficiently and effectively, and it comes down to one thing: the understanding of what it is to be a citizen, and understanding what it is to be in government. Like Chief Obla said, I'm sure for many of us who have been appointed, and those who have been in offices before now will clearly agree with what he said. Everybody has come to the sense that the moment you get into public office, it is for you to amass as much as you can to prevent yourself or shield yourself from the challenges that the society brings, when the very essence of being in government is to provide solution and extend this solution to every single man on the street. Security comes from lack of jobs. Security comes from misappropriation. Insecurity comes from people just watching people in position waste and keep away resources that are meant for common man use, that are meant for the development of our country, for people to be able to earn a legitimate living. Until we have a holistic approach to addressing all of this, the steps being taken, the steps that were taken in the last 8 years, I mean, we saw a lot of improvement in terms of hostility, in terms of insecurities, from regional insecurities that we've experienced, especially from the Northeast. However, there is something bigger that needs to be done, which is having a man in charge who understands what it is to give an assignment to a set of people and follow up, get reports, encourage those who are doing well, sanction those who are not, and in any case, remove people who are not pulling their weight. It's been way too long that we've had people put in position and pay lip service to national issues, especially when it comes to security. The most important thing I am confident that Mr. President will do is that he will spare no one, he will spare no rod, and he will leave no stone unturned to ensure that the country is secured. He's just signed it over 28 trillion naira budget, a budget he is expecting to get funded from the activities of the economy, from growing the economy. If the economy does not take off, if the economy is easily stifled by insecurity, by corruption, by all of this, most importantly insecurity. Farmers can't go to work if they are insecure. Market people cannot go to market. There won't be production if there are insecurity. He knows this well, and he knows he will have to address it. We are asking for foreign investors to come into the country. What country are we asking them to come into? This calls for like a national behavioral change, not just on security matter, on saying that we have to move from where we are. It's clear that we have a man who isn't there because he wants to just be powerful, who isn't there because he wants money. He is there because he has always believed that we as a people can be better than we are, like the average Nigerian believes. He's leading by example, and he's going to put pressure on every head of all of the security agencies to ensure that they do their part. On the other side, the people, I would say, it is pretty challenging right now to go by, or to earn a living. But the only option we have is to look at what we've been doing wrongly, what we need to do wrongly, areas we need to collaborate with the government. We need to give our collective selves a chance to succeed. And the only way to do this, bring information. You're an individual in private sector, in public sector, in security outfit. We have one goal: ensure we secure this country and ensure we have a united, peaceful and prosperous Nigeria where every one of us will feel proud of. And that is exactly the kind of country that Mr. President is prepared to lead. And we clearly know what he did when he was in Lagos as a governor. We do not expect anything less, and he hasn't shown any sign of performing any less. So it is now for the people, whether in offices, whether out there, to see what role we need to play to ensure that we are secured. It is not for Mr. President to succeed. No, it is for us as a people to succeed. And it's encouraging that we have someone who is on top of his game, who is aware of what is going on, assign, give responsibility, manage responsibility, then ensure that you get feedback and get a report on the performance of these people you have given responsibility to, and hold them account for what they've been asked to do. And if we do this and commit to doing all of this, I mean, the problems are not, they're not beyond us. We can't fix our security issues, at least reduce them to the barest minimal. I mean, it's one thing.
Aliu, thank you. Aliu, thank you. I think few people have any doubt about the, capacity and capability of Mr. President to match his words with action. What we really, want to discuss at the moment, probably, strategies that could aid the president, of course, in achieving some of the objectives and indicators in these key priority areas. And like you said, security now has a wide range of senses and interpretations. So, and one area, of course, is not just the absence of, war, but of course, where you have the freedom to be able to, purchase what you want, freedom to be able to eat, freedom, from hunger, freedom from, poverty. These are all, forms of, different senses of security. And that's why if we are to grow our economy according to the parameters of the budget to 3.7 percent, then the president must be very strategic in dealing with the issue of corruption. It was a fundamental burden for former president. And that is why, like my colleague said, if the EFCC boss himself has come out to, raise concern about its own agency, he's not alone. He's not been alone. A lot of people have also pointed fingers at some of these, anti-graft agencies themselves. And I'm sure you must have heard of that. The loots are being looted again. So, questioning, the integrity of some of these things. Do you think that what can the president do such that the seemingly, impact that we're seeing now in the area of corruption doesn't appear like smoke screen?
Yes. Punishment is also very important in as much as preventive measures are paramount in fighting corruption, because corruption is intertwined with even issues of security. What is fueling insecurity is money laundering. Nigeria is a hub, a regional hub for money laundering, and it is believed that every year more than 500 billion naira is, or dollars is laundered in the West African sub-region, and Nigeria is the center. So the people who are, aiding and abetting terrorism, they are passing money around. Where is the money coming from? Those who are into human trafficking, they are also passing money around. What of the arms trafficking, which is also very, very paramount. People have been talking about Libya. That Libya was destabilized, and Libya army used to be one of the biggest in Africa, well equipped. So after Gaddafi left office, or was left in office as Libya head of state, all those arms came to the Saharan region. And what is fueling these harms is money laundering. So everything is centered on corruption. So if we don't address issues of money laundering, we will never address the issues of insecurity. The banditry, the bandits, they also make a lot of money. A lot of money is passing around. So let us look at our financial institutions. The banks are not helping government. They are not complying with the money laundering policy and regulation of government. Otherwise, why will the minister order or direct transfer of 585 million naira to a private account and without the bank raising an alarm, flagging as required of them by the law, calling Nigerian Financial Intelligence Agency. Somebody has transferred 500 and something million naira to an account that receives maybe averagely 200,000 naira a month. So these are all the institutional weaknesses that are responsible for what we are seeing. So the president should ensure that all our institutions like anti-corruption, bank, non-financial institutions are strengthened, that those who have been given responsibilities and they don't do them should be punished. Also, the ministers, they must have a new orientation. The orientation that as a minister, you do not have the right to write a letter to the accountant general to transfer money to a private account when the law says, the federal government financial regulation says a minister should not do that, that no officer of government should transfer money from a public account to a private account, and no private money should be passed to a federal government account, that any officer that directs transfer of money from a public account to a private account has fraudulent intent.
Okay.
All right. Many thanks, Chief Bono Obla. This corruption issue is really a big issue, and another big issue that has been affected by corruption will be the Ajaokuta Steel Company. We know this. We know the history. It's a long history. As some people have said, the Ajaokuta Steel Complex, the story is like that of the Abiku. They have related it to it. Like you try to wake it up, it dies again. You wake it up, it dies again. And so much money is being spent. This administration came on board, and then of course they're still looking at that Ajaokuta Steel Complex and looking at how to revive it. And they're saying, well, Nigerians should be hopeful that before the end of this first term, something will come on board. In your own view, what will be the way forward? Because the steel industry is a very, very important industry as far as development is concerned in any nation. And if we can get that right, of course, a lot of things will go right in this country. Besides the job creation, having some of these finished products in this country will reduce the price. It would affect, so many sectors, and it's a great booster. In your own view, do you really think that this administration should consider, trying to revitalize, Ajaokuta, or probably look at other ways, to get our steel sector more vibrant?
I don't think there's any alternative to getting Ajaokuta working. Are we going to throw it away? It's a legacy project. It's a project that can transform our nation and our economy. But it's important to note that the last administration had an eye on that, but we know that there was an issue, that bordered also on corruption, contracts, some agreements in the past that stalled any efforts to. But I think that has been resolved now with the court judgment that was given recently. So what I think is important here is the political will. If there's a political will, and I believe, and that is also where we all are positive, where what our renewed hope is hinged on, that this president understands business, he understands the politics, and he understands all the things that are needed to come into play to get things move forward. We can build on the foundations that have been laid in the last 8 years. And so if there's the political will, and I believe it is there, and that gives me hope, what we need to do is to take a look again at that steel mill and find out what the issues are. Then find out, for instance, like what was done with the refineries. There was a serious technical committee that went in to look at these things.
So you don't share the views of some Nigerians who think that trying to revitalize that complex might just be an effort in futility, considering the number of years it has stayed, being obsolete, and then in some sectors, when you try to refurbish, it's more expensive than starting afresh. Okay, so do you really think that, because so much money has gone down?
Yes.
So don't you think it would be another waste to consider, reviving the complex?
The same thing was said about the refineries for Port Harcourt. Some of these, this steel mill in Ajaokuta never really got working. I don't always believe that it is cheaper to build something new than to rebuild or even to complete something that has been done. There are some critical components of a system that when you get that sorted out, the rest will just be cleaned up. Because are we going to just throw away the massive investment, the massive structure that is the steel mill? We have not given that steel mill actually a chance to see the light of day. I believe that if we go into that steel mill and sort out all the issues and look at the technical issues, I believe that with the size of that steel mill, I believe that what we will put in to get it working may not be as much as what we do to build it. Because if you're building a new one, you're starting from the scratch. I strongly believe, to answer your question straightforward, that it is better for us to go and get Ajaokuta steel mill, complete it and get it working, than to begin something new that will require, planning, that will require all kinds of structural design and all that. These have already been done, So I believe that it will be faster for us if we look at having resolved the key issues that have been bogging it down. That if they do a couple of things that needs to be done and get the necessary people, get the necessary investors, get the necessary partners who will actually add value to the place, that I believe that the steel mill will get working again.
Okay, Aliu, please, just give us an insight into what has happened between September 2023 and now. If you remember, Nigeria was at the G20 summit in New Delhi, and we know that there were, investment deals. Investment deals were struck, especially with China in the area of steel, in a partnership to revitalize our, steel sector. And I believe some investments, whatever 30, maybe billion US dollars were struck. Can you just give us an insight into that? And also plans, by the Chinese company to also start a new steel plant in Nigeria. I'm sure you must have heard what Diala here talked about, prospects of starting up a new steel company while we still have Ajaokuta, yet to commence food operations.
All right. I mean, there's been a lot of development in that area. The Minister for Steel Development, Prince Shaibu Audu, and the Minister for Defense, His Excellency Badaru, were out of the country to visit in Guangzhou some Chinese companies and spoke with their chairman. And Luan Steel Company of China has indicated strong commitment, strong interest in investing as much as $10 billion in our steel industry in Ajaokuta, and real moves are expected to be seen soon. We are expecting at least 500,000 direct and indirect jobs to be created from that, and a massive take in the steel demands of the country and the region. And there is equally a plan to cite weapon manufacturing companies, industries in all around Ajaokuta there, that will take their input as from the output of the steel that is going to come up, creating opportunity for multi-talented Nigerians who can use products from the steel industry to create products, and of course for the different sectors. It's all positive as the steel revitalization is concerned. And if we are to go by the last brief Mr. President got from the Minister of Steel Development, then we are in the right direction. We are close to seeing eventually a real start of the Ajaokuta steel, especially the steel plant, the steel mill side of it kicking off within the next couple of months.
Thanks, Aliu Audu. Let's get to Chief Bunobla now. We've talked about corruption. We've talked about the security, and just you heard Aliu talking about the steel sector. All of this basically, it's to reduce poverty. If you get security right, people can go about. Of course, they can take care of themselves. Poverty will be reduced. The steel sector is working. You get people employed. I mean, all of that. if corruption is reduced to the barest minimum, government agencies will perform better. People will be able to earn a livelihood and live better. But looking at poverty reduction and looking at the way the president has come out to talk about it, and of course the popular one, let the poor breathe. Do you really think that the poor will breathe? Let's look at 2024 now. The challenges, that are evident. Looking at where we're coming from last year, and then the present economic realities and everything. What steps would you want, this administration to take, just so that it can actually match words with action in terms of letting the poor breathe in this country, specifically for this year?
Well, the poor, poverty put together is also fueling the insecurity we're talking about. It's also fueling corruption. So we have to address poverty. Nigeria is a large country. I remember India had a similar experience. When I was in secondary school, our teachers, most of them came from India, and one of them became hysterical when he was paid 25 naira or so as his monthly salary. The man went berserk because he said he has never seen that kind of money. That was India. And today India is coming out of poverty. India is being projected to be maybe the biggest economy, more than China in 50 years time or 40 years time. So if India has fought poverty, if China has also fought poverty, because in 1940, China was in a feudal level of production, and within 40 years, that they transformed from that feudal level of production to what the second biggest economy. We can do that in Nigeria by putting in place right policies, appointing competent, committed Nigerians, giving responsibilities of fighting poverty, not those who want to, use poverty as an instrument to enrich themselves. And then we should try as much as possible to decentralize poverty fighting. Humanitarian services. I see no reason why we should have a federal minister of humanitarian affairs in a federal system of government. We should decentralize it. Those responsibilities should be taken over by our local government councils, because they're the closest to the people. By the states are not doing much. The governors are not doing much, because there's not much pressure or opposition to our governors like the president. If you can go on TV to say the president did this and that, but in most of our states you cannot even criticize the governor. You cannot. What are the local governments doing? The local governments have been captured by the state governments to the extent that even allocation to local government areas are taken over by state governments. We don't even see them at the grassroots level. So therefore, everybody is depending on Abuja, even to do a road in my local government area in crossover state. People will be talking about Abuja. And if those roads are not done, they'll say, oh, President Tinibu. So the state governors have
even the governors themselves blame the president.
Exactly.
When a road is bad, they tell you the federal road. Which is
mischief by blaming the president. Most of the governors are doing nothing. Let the governors take this fight, against poverty alleviation to the grassroots level, because they are the closest to the people. The president doesn't see the people from in Abuja, see people in Rivers State, in a remote or Pobo local government area of Rivers State, or even in Yala local government area in my own state, or Mbise in Imo State. So the governor should, sit up and start working for the people, not just moving around and coming to Abuja. Some of them live in Abuja. Some of the governors live in Abuja. They are always very happy when they are in Abuja. They should go to their states and fight poverty by ensuring that they make budgets that will affect the people and the money trickles down to the people. We have been fighting, every year we budget money for water, so forth. If they have been doing that for the past 50 years. When I was a small boy, every year the government will put money in the budget for water. We are not seeing the water. Why? Our policies are not working because we don't have competent people, committed people who believe in Nigeria. So the president should look for those who believe in Nigeria at the state level, at the local government level, in the ministries, NDAs, and ensure that the people have a vision and they understand the direction it's going into.
All right, talking about the direction.
Sorry, I just okay. It's still on your question.
Yes, he is talking about the direction he's going to, and that's why he has brought the sign-in, beforehand. If you don't perform, you'll be sacked. Do you think that will work?
Performance bond.
Yes. When anybody who crosses the line, he uses the sledgehammer on that person. Kick that person out of government. Any person who doesn't share his vision, any minister that will use his company to go and do a contract in a sister ministry, when you are supposed, after appointment, you should divest your interest in any company so that there is no conflict of interest. So people like that should kick out of government. They don't have the president's vision. Okay. It must be those who understand President Bola Ahmed Tinibu, his philosophy, his vision, and the direction he's going into. Okay. Those are the people you should work with.
Thank you. I like to. Okay, please go ahead, yes, and then I'll take the question.
Add to the question on poverty, I think that we have not fully exploited the greatest resource we have, and that is one, our population, and then agriculture. So it's important going forward in this 2024 that we double down on agriculture, because agriculture is a mass employer of people. Agriculture is a sector that doesn't require your academic qualification. It's actually irrelevant, meaning that the person who didn't go to school can go into agriculture and make a lot of money. We should build on what we have achieved in the last couple of years, and of course weed off some of the negatives. You see, a lot of people went into agriculture in the last 8 years, and a lot of money was put into agriculture in a bit to also address the poverty problem. Because what are you trying? What is poverty alleviation? If people are able to make some minimal, some basic amount of money, it's better the one they create themselves. You can't keep giving handouts. That's the problem. Why we're running into the problem of humanitarian affairs and money sharing. So we need to look. A lot of people, money was spent, but the money didn't get to the real farmers.
All right, Dr. Diala, thank you. Let's begin, Aliyu, and probably a last question for you, Aliyu. And I'll take you back again to steel, the steel sector. And if as you rightly know, there are a number of agencies under the steel sector. Some of them, I don't know how functional or operational they are. And these are agencies that are very fundamental, in, of course, growing, our GDP, to the parameter of 3.7 if, priority attention is given to those sectors. What is government's agenda for these agencies under the steel ministry?
I mean, the agenda is simple. It is, we cannot create as much value as required to improve our economy if the production sector does not take off. And like your colleague rightly said, the importance of steel in modern development cannot be overemphasized. And it's same directive, same instructions, same expectation from agency, not just the ministry itself, agency in the ministry to go back to the drawing board and look through our past years in this sector. Look at what have we done in the past that has not given us result? Look at how we've done them, what we've done, how we've done them, and seek new ways of doing things. During the ministerial retreat, Mr. President gave a very firm directive as to the era of saying this is how we do it, this is how it's to be done is gone. Every single occupant of an office should put into use their mental ability. There should be critical reasoning as to what you are expected to do, what you are doing, ask the why, the what, the when, the how. Let's actually be very result oriented and let's be focused on processes. I'd like to quickly relate it to something else. I mean, we are all happy about the victory the Super Eagles secured yesterday, but most people are not impressed with the process. Most people are not impressed with how they got it, you know, which brings us back to the environment we now have, where so much emphasis is laid on money without value. We need to de-emphasize the importance that's being paid to money, and pay more attention to value creation. You know, money itself is nothing if it does not carry any value. Our currency loses value because it is a store. Currency is a store of value. What are our values, individually and collectively? What are the values of all of the agencies in the steel ministry? What are the values of all of the other agencies elsewhere? What Mr. President has done is for every administrator, every manager to put back into their agency, put back into the ministry value creation, because that is most importantly what, you know, is going to be required to bring the needed change, you know, in our economy. And it's simple. People who are committed, people who know the vision, people who understand what it takes, people who know, people who understand what it takes, people who know.
We have to leave it at that for now. I'm sure you know, we'll be taking up each of these segments, you know, in the course of our conversations on Good Morning Nigeria, and as you say, would also be following, you know, developments within the NDAs and agencies. And I'd just like to appreciate you, Aliu Audu, Special Assistant to the President on Public Affairs, for joining us on Good Morning Nigeria from Lagos. Let me also appreciate you know, the guest right here in the studio, Chief Okoye Owenubla, former presidential aide lawyer, public affairs analyst, and APC secretary. Thank you, very much for joining us. And Dr. Uche Diala, we do appreciate you, and we look forward to having you more on our program.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be presenting to you the newest NSC president.